get it going.
Yeah.
And we are live with Pirate Broadcast. And I just want to thank you so much. All the gratitude in the world for you being here. And we have an amazing week coming up. Every week we go on Monday through Friday on the Pirate Broadcast from 7 a.m. Arizona time. And I say Arizona time because not everybody realizes that Arizona doesn't have daylight savings. So you have to do the math wherever you happen to be. So you catch us on. And then the replays are always going to be at russjohns.com/Pirate Broadcast. And today is no exception for an exceptional day. And we have Brynne Tillman, and we're going to be talking about relationships. We're going to be talking about LinkedIn. We're going to be talking about life and the pursuit of all things good for you this week, this day. And thank you so much for being here, Brynne. How are you today?
I'm thrilled to be here. I'm sharing this out right now. So if I look like I'm working at the same time.
We're going to be sharing this out. Let's get this going out. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go into the posts and I'm going to see that we're live and I'm going to share. There's some comments, a couple of views here. We'll allow a few people to come into the room and, get involved and engaged in this conversation with us. If you have questions, please drop them in the comments and we'll do the best we can. And if we don't answer them immediately, we'll come back and we'll answer the questions in the comments. So don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to pitch in. Don't respond to comments. And on LinkedIn Live, it's not as easy and simple as possible. So I just want to make sure that you're reminded that I still love you. Okay. So
you certainly keep looking back and checking it out.
I will keep looking back and checking it out. So you have been on LinkedIn and you are primarily a sales trainer and relationship builder. So talk about how you arrived at where you are today and what's your journey. So tell us.
Well, my journey has been an interesting one. I've been in sales since, my first job right out of college in Dun & Bradstreet. I started in an inbound call center, went to an outbound call center, and finally made to the field where I really fell in love with business development. The one piece I didn't love about sales was the cold calling piece, and most people don't love it. There are some people that do. That was the piece I didn't love. What I loved was the relationship building. And I tended, in all of my sales jobs, two things happened. One, I got lots of referrals. I mean, that's where I really was able to grow my business. Uh-huh. And two, I was asked to train and onboard new people from my very first job. Whatever I was doing was working and they wanted to scale me. So I ended up in a business development role in training, and training people really how to get referrals. But it still wasn't enough back in 1990, 92, 94. Mm-hmm. And we still had to, knock on doors and cold call because, we were limited to, we would ask our clients, so who do you know that could use our products and services the same way you have? Right. And they shrug, right? And go, I don't know. I don't know. But if someone asked, I would certainly refer you, right? Like that became that conversation.
Yes, I like you, and I would love to send someone your way if I knew who it was.
Right. And, and every once in a while you got one, which was fabulous. But we lost control of that process, right? Like we gave up the control to the client to figure it out.
Yeah. There was no education process along the way for identification. Is it?
Well, no, I mean, we would be able to tell the client, like, this is who we're looking for, someone just like you, but, it was up to them to have to, like, go through their Rolodex, right? Go through, right. If it didn't come to mind or it didn't come up in conversation, it wasn't necessarily their priority to figure out who they could refer us to. Yeah. LinkedIn changed that. And I'll tell you, this is where, when I got on LinkedIn, I saw immediately, before LinkedIn saw it as a sales platform, immediately the value because you could do one major thing, which was search and filter your connections to identify exactly who they knew that you wanted to meet. When I saw that, I went, this is the answer to my prayers, right? Because now I can, before I approach my client for these referrals, I can look up who they know, whittle it down 8 or 10 names, right? And bring it to them with a little conversation with, hey, Mr. Klein, I noticed you're connected to 8 people on LinkedIn that I'd love to get in front of. Can I run these names by you?
Right.
And 8 becomes 4. And all of a sudden, and then we can either get literally a referral from them, a clear introduction into them, or if there's a huge list of people, maybe there's a few that become referrals, and then we position ourselves to get permission to name drop. And so we can get in front of a lot of people by leveraging 1 or 2 or 3 clients. So that's the magic and how I kind of ended up here, because it really answered my prayers of how do I get more referrals and have to do less cold calling.
And I think a lot of people don't really appreciate the depth in which you can actually make connections on LinkedIn. I mean, I have friends all over the world, just like yourself. I mean, there are these individuals that technology has now allowed us to break the barriers of time and boundaries. You know, it's like you can drive across town. You can't drive around the world in a day to have coffee with a friend that you just met or a client a lot of times, you know, so it's moving a much quicker. So the other side of the equation though, and I want to talk a little bit about this, is how do you manage the development of relationships long-term? Because there's a lot of times where, you know, you get overwhelmed by the numbers. I mean, because there's so many opportunities out there. At least that's how I look at it. It's like there's so many opportunities. How do you manage all of those connections on a day-to-day basis? I mean, you've done this for years. There has to be a couple of nuggets of knowledge that we can share to really bring this home, I think.
Absolutely. I have 3 categories of people, first of all. Well, I've really 4. So the first category is a prospect, someone that I want to ultimately do business with. The second category is a referral partner, someone who sells into my prospects, but is not a competitor, right? So they're people I can refer to and back and forth. The third is a person that has great content in my industry that I can engage with that would be beneficial to my network.
Right.
And then there's everyone else. So that's the 4th category. The 3, right? I mean, that's really, and everyone else, there people can come in over time from the everyone else, right? And it's not that I love everyone else and I love to help them and engage them, but I'm not proactively managing them.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't mean to belittle everyone else. Everyone else is really important, but you know, they're going to, you know, come in and out of my network as appropriate to what's going on in their world and their life.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I manage the other 3 groups, right? So you're like, okay, you have thousands of connections. How do you remember who they are? And although I do believe most sales teams should have CRMs to do some of this, I actually really leverage mine through Chrome bookmarks. So I actually have 3 categories, 3 folders for my prospects, my referral partners, and people that have great content. And I literally will save. So if they're great content people, I go to their activity page on LinkedIn and I start, you know, I save them to a bookmark of people with great content, right? And so each of them has their own folder. And so when I have a new blog post, let's say, that might be really great to those prospects, I can open up that folder in one click, open up all of their message tabs, right? And send them, you know, just wrote this blog on X, Y, and Z, thought you might find it helpful. Let me know if you have any questions. And I can get it out to a lot of people pretty quickly. And then a lot of times I'm like, oh, I forgot about that person. I really need to go reach out more deeper than just sending a blog post, right? Yeah. So that's my little hack, are these Chrome bookmarks.
That's a brilliant tip, and I use very similar, because I take the link to their activity and put it in my CRM too, along with their name. So when I'm looking through people on prospects and following up with people, I can see what they're doing recently, easily and quickly. So that's a great tip. I love that tip. And I just want to shout out to Sally, Sherry, Christina, Lori, Brenda, everybody that's jumping in the room. We're talking with Brynne here about building relationships on LinkedIn and selling specifically. And I don't want to plant the seed that selling is bad. Selling is good. I mean, we're all here to do business, exchange value. And it's really one of these things that is, some people argue it's an art. Some people argue that it's a skill, and it's really about building relationships and building community around what you're doing and adding and where you can add value. Because I mean, I've had people that I met a year ago that they don't need my service now. However, they might need my service eventually someday. And, and if you build that relationship, you build that bridge, and you build that communication when they need you. It's not a matter of if they need you, when they need you, then it becomes something that they can actually engage with. So how do you, I mean, is that something that resonates with you, and you could share some ideas about that?
Yeah, 100%. Like most of us get on, well, first of all, so we all need to grow our business, and sales is really important. 100%.
Absolutely, 100%.
But you don't want to do what I think is the biggest mistake on LinkedIn, which is connect and pitch, right? Like you will turn everyone off. So pitching is not building relationships that lead to sales. Pitching is gross, like too early. There will come a time, and what you just said, Russ, like where the timing is right, and they'll raise their hand and they say, tell me how you can help me, and then it's appropriate. Yeah. But they need to ask before you pitch, right? They need to show interest. So most people look at LinkedIn hoping and praying that it's going to be this linear process, right? I follow them, I connect with them, I send them a piece of content, they engage with me, I get it, I reach out and say, hey, let's have a phone call, they get on a call, I take them through my pitch, they buy, right? And now that's it. And they want it to be this very linear, like,
it's like a checklist. I have a checklist, I'm going to go through my checklist, right?
And that's what everybody's like hoping. It's sort of like the cold call cadence. Like it's like we took it from here and moved from cold calling, and here's like my 7 steps to getting an appointment, and then we take it onto LinkedIn, and it doesn't translate the same way.
No, so everybody's an individual, and it takes time to understand what they really actually need, because what they're saying and what they really actually need may be 2 entirely different things. And until you really understand what their pain is rather than their symptom, you really can't help them.
So I love that, right? And you said something that really resonates with me is it's timing too, right? Like when do they need you? So that nurturing and staying, top of mind is really important. And that's where kind of that content engagement is really important. And it's not just your content, it's engaging on their content and their activity, being really relevant in their eyes. So what it really looks like, we have this idea of linear. What it really looks like is a lot more like a spider's web, right? Like, we connect, send a welcome message. Maybe they say thank you, and we think, oh, now they're really excited. They comment, and then they ignore you. And then
they liked my post. They must want to buy something.
Oh my God, they must, right. And now, and so there are these like little moments of they liked my post, maybe they made a comment, but if we jump and we pounce too fast, it will totally blow up any potential relationship, right? It's like, asking to get engaged on the first date. And so there has to be this natural pace. I tell people, look at it like you are in a networking event. You would never walk up to someone, hand them their business card, shake their hand, and say, I'd love to tell you how I can help you in your business. You you just wouldn't do that. There's a natural conversation of getting to know one another and what's important. So over time, and I'm not saying in every one of my messages, I will always say, P.S. if you have any LinkedIn questions, I'm always happy to chat. So I open that door and I make it very easy for people to ask me these questions that can eventually lead to business. So I'm not saying don't ask for the call, but don't make that your priority. Like your priority is just kind of, building some rapport, sharing value, being a value in their network, which goes way beyond you sharing your blog post, right? Like that's not all that they care about, right?
Well, and I think also I read an article that you posted recently that, it's also part of it is listening. We're so quick to be able to respond with an answer. And when we actually take time to listen to the customer or listen to the client or the prospect or the individual that we're talking to, you can actually understand at a deeper level what they're looking for, what they're searching for, and how they need help. And I think that's important as well. And I think you pointed that out in a recent article. So I think that's a point that a lot of people are missing when they're just shouting out. It's like spray and pray. It's like if I make 100 calls a day, someone, even a blind squirrel, catches a nut once in a while, right? And I think that they miss the opportunity. There's a huge opportunity loss because they're not developing anything other than a superficial relationship. They're not going deep. So
yeah, and you can turn way more people off.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point. And people say, well, it's a numbers game. If I turn off 90 people and I get 99 people and I get one, but over time, those 99 people may need your services and they no longer like you.
Yeah.
Right. And so it really is about providing great value. I still want to take conversations from LinkedIn to, I always say phone calls, but really it's Zoom calls now. Everything I do.
Yeah, everything's on Zoom now.
Yeah, I use my phone to schedule Zoom calls. It's pretty much how it works now.
Yeah.
And I love that, right? There's this face-to-face, there's this real connection that we can start to make.
I think it's changed a lot of businesses in terms of being more accessible through time zones and geography. And it's just an amazing tool that I think, we're living in an amazing time. I just have to say it over and over again. And I hope you don't get tired of me saying this, but it's really an amazing time in history where we have access to, global. I mean, you're in a different time zone than I am right now. We're in different places. You're traveling, I'm traveling, and we're still having a conversation and producing a show right now. That's, to me, amazing. So
yeah, I love it. And actually, I mean, now obviously this is LinkedIn Live, but I think for me, Zoom transformed my business. I used to use a lot of the different other different platforms, but Zoom has made it so simple that you have one link that you can send to everybody. It's like your phone number, right?
Yeah.
And it just becomes the way to really communicate. And, you get 6 people on a call, 4 people on a call. It's amazing. And so that is definitely in my, 5 have to have tools to run the world.
Yeah. You love my Zoom. Yeah, in fact, I have a custom URL. It's called bookrust.com. And if you go to bookrust.com, you can schedule time with me. And
I have that too.
Yeah.
It goes
just makes it cool.
Mine is Calendly. What do you use?
I use Calendly.
Yeah, that's what I use.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Calendly, it interfaces with Zoom. It interfaces with my Google Calendar. It knows when I'm busy. It knows when I'm available.
Yep.
Although I do have some client calendars that throw me off now and then. It's like I get too many. I want a tool that combines all of my calendars in one platform where I can see everything all at once. It's like,
you can do that in an Outlook, right? Like
I'm not a fan of Outlook though.
I do bring everything into my phone, so that's where I see all my calendars in one place.
Yeah. That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
So that's my primary calendar. My desktop is my secondary calendar. Like, that's more individualized.
now that you say that, that's a great hack that I should bring all my clients into my phone. So all I have to do is one place. That I'll have to try that and give you credit for it.
I don't need credit.
I love learning. The reason I do this is I had a job years ago where I sold office supplies, and I'd go out to all these businesses, Acme Corporation, at ABC Company, and all these things. It's like, what do you guys do? What happens here? Because it's like you drop off a case of paper or something like that. It's like, and I'm always curious about, okay, what do you actually do? What do you produce that creates value that people pay you money for? And it's fascinating what people do in businesses that you learn about along the way. And LinkedIn is like that. It's like a treasure trove of different people doing different things for people. And it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to give you one more tip on that calendar, by the way.
Give me one more tip.
Yeah. So in your Calendly, if you give your primary calendar permission to read other calendars, you can actually, so I have like 4 calendars that are being checked on one Calendly. So even my socialsaleslink.com is my primary Calendly. It will look at other like my personal, like if I have a doctor's appointment on my personal calendar, it will look at that and then take that off of the availability.
That's a brilliant tip. And I love the fact that, we must be doing something along the lines, because I mean, and it saves me so much time, and I don't have to think about, okay, when is my calendar open? Just book a time, and then we'll sit down, we'll have a conversation, and it's so much easier. So do you also send people links from your phone to your Calendly calendar, or just directly to your Zoom call?
So mine is schedule a call with Brynne.com.
Okay.
Right. And that redirects actually to a page on my website where I've embedded Calendly.
All right.
Right. And you can have a 15-minute call, which is, just for us to chat and for me to help. And I have my 90-minute private session, and they can choose which one they want.
Yeah.
On the same page. And it's perfect. So most everyone goes to those pages. I have some other pages, like for clients that have 30-minute private sessions.
Yeah.
I have one client where they buy 150 private sessions a year.
I love that.
Right?
I love that.
So they have their own page, but and schedule there. Yeah. So it's pretty perfect the way that we've got this all set up, and Calendly, and when they get the Calendly invite, it has my Zoom information in it.
Yeah. That's one thing I really like about Calendly, is the fact that you can actually attach a Zoom room right to the invitation. Yep. So, well, so many things going on, and so many events taking place. December already, I can't believe it. I just want to give a shout out, Nick, Vicky, Ramon, Angie. Good morning, Sherry. Thank you everyone for joining us. I really believe that, by building communities and building relationships and connecting with individuals like Brynne, we can absolutely improve our circumstance, our environment, bring a little joy into the world, have a couple of smiles, smiles are free. And I just love the fact that we can actually bring this to the table and share a few tips, ideas, and solutions that help us move along our business. So what are some other sales strategies that you've worked with over the years that someone might be able to adopt or change their way of thinking about this besides relationships? Because I just love that, and I endorse that 100%. And I'm sure that there's some other things that, following up, building relationships, having rapport, understanding, listening. Is there any other secret sauce that you can share with us today, Brynne?
So, I mean, I think there's a lot around, like we just did a little tiny sliver of building relationships, and I think there's a lot more around that. One thing, it leads back to LinkedIn, but that I find really important is we have to really leverage our clients better. So we talked about client referrals.
Right.
There are 4 other things we want from our clients ultimately. Obviously, the first one is more business from them. Right? What more can we get from them?
Right.
if we have larger clients, we probably want internal introductions. Like, who else inside of their company can we be? And that, a lot of us do not take advantage of that. We've got, I have, a client that has a very, one department in IBM, and she does well with that department, but the opportunities are endless. So we're talking, who else in IBM should we be getting those internal introductions to, where you could really explode, right? And she's already an approved vendor and all that fun stuff. The third one is these external introductions that, searching who they know and bringing that list. We talked about that.
Right.
The next one, we talked about vendor relationships, that I said, that's one of my categories. I want to meet the vendors that my current clients are using, right? So for me, I want to ask them, who's the salesperson for your CRM?
Yeah.
Right? Who's the salesperson for your sales law, or whatever other tools you have? Who's your sales navigator salesperson, right?
Right.
Who's your, you have an employee advocacy tool? I want to meet that salesperson, right? Because those are all people, number one, I can refer, but build rapport and relationships. And I can say to my client, do you love your CRM gal? Like, is she great? And they go, oh my God, she's amazing. We love your CRM, whatever, right? Like, that's great. Okay. Then I want to meet her.
Yeah.
They may say, I'm really not happy with my CRM right now. And I can say, you know what? I hear this a lot. I have a couple people that I'd love to introduce you to. And there might be some better options for you and your team. Would you be open to some of those conversations? And then I'd reach out to like John Ferrara at Nimble and say, there's an opportunity here.
Right.
Right. And so you grow these vendor relationships, and but when your client says, oh, I love them, now you can say, look, I have a client that a shared client with this person. I feel much more comfortable making that introduction because they've been vetted out by someone I'm already working with. It's not just random vendors, right?
Yeah, there's not a dartboard involved in the decision process. It's a known entity.
And when I'm introduced from a vendor they already trust, they have a much shorter sales cycle, and they're not shopping.
No.
So I find that to be really interesting. Just so the fifth one, because otherwise people are like, that's 4, you said 5. The fifth one is case studies and recommendations, right?
Yeah.
So that, and I love to get recommendations on LinkedIn and create case studies around them. But, a lot of this, I teach LinkedIn, and those are 5 things that we want. And LinkedIn enhances all 5 of those. Because once I have these relationships with these other vendors, I invite them to mine my connections and vice versa, and then proactively make some referrals and introductions for one another.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I do love the idea that if you are a referral partner, if you provide referrals, people are more open to see you as a resource and someone to go to when they have questions that they don't know the answer to. And even outside your industry, people come to you and they say, do you know anyone, or do you have a resource for this? And it's a great way to continue the conversation over and over again. So pay attention to those tips. Brynne, thank you so much for bringing some amazing nuggets of knowledge today. I just really love that. Thanks
for having me. This was so much fun, Russ.
Well, I know that you're traveling. I know you got a busy day going on, and there's things that are out there in the world that we got to go. December, last month of the year in 2019. I cannot believe that 2020 is upon us. It's just amazing. It's just like, I started in technology in 92. I started advertising in 85. So it's, I've seen the transition from analog to digital, and I've seen the transition over the years, just developing some of the ways of, broadcasting versus engagement. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people need to, like you're saying, they're still adopting the cold call mentality on social media. And I think I'd like to see it change and evolve, you know, because it's only going to improve your relationships, your life. And really, if you can dig a little deeper and go a little further in the relationship, it always pays off. And that's my experience. And I hope that someone else can have that same experience as I had. So
that's great. Well, I really appreciate you having me here today, and I had a lot of fun.
awesome. Thank you. And I look forward to another episode. We got Vicki tomorrow on the Pirate Broadcast. And I just really wish you all the best in your day, all the gratitude in the world for everyone that stopped by live. If you want to watch the replay, the easiest place to go is russjohns.com/pirate broadcast for all the episodes. A podcast, YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn Live. And it's I try to make it easy for everyone so you can actually enjoy the content from all these amazing minds. Brynne, it's been so wonderful to have you here today. And thank you so much for sharing your gifts and your knowledge and your talents. So
thanks, Russ. Thank you.
So kindness is cool. Smiles are free. And you enjoy the day.